This video is going to be about some corners that I should not have cut, along with a lot of other tips about how to start a painting, paint a fox, how to direct the eye around the painting. So there's going to be a lot in this video, but there are tons of tips and ideas. But the main story of this video is about my oops, uh-oh, as my 3-year-old would say, with this painting when I first started it. So let's get started, and thanks for joining me. Okay, so the first thing I want to do right off is to show you what I think my mistake was. So take a look at the picture that I've put over here, and you tell me what you think is wrong. Okay, so let me tell you what I think is wrong. Okay, so do you notice under the fox, see how there's a line right along underneath the fox, along his body? It's very straight, it's pretty straight. And there's no grasses coming up, there's no negative painting, there's no leaves coming over his body. What was I thinking? What I ended up having to do was fix that, and in this video I'll show you how I fixed it. But if I would have planned at the beginning to incorporate the fox into the foreground and the background, I would have saved myself a lot of headaches. So I'm going to show you what I did to paint this fox the second time. I painted him a second time just for you guys. I sent the original painting off to the person who commissioned it, but I began this painting again. I haven't finished it, but I began it again to show you how I should have begun the painting and how I should have incorporated the background. So that's a lot what this video is going to be about. And first I'm going to show you real quick me masking it and taping it down, and I've done a lot of other videos with that, so I don't think I need to explain that part. I think we should just get right into the meat of the matter. How did I fix this painting? And so one thing I did think I haven't shared with you guys about masking. You know, you put your brush in soap and you scrub soap into it to save the brush. But then when you make your lines, like for a whisker, make sure that you refine both ends of the line. So say this is a line, this line, usually this part of the whisker turns out nice and thin, but a lot of times when you just first put your brush down, you might have a blob there. Just be aware, this is something I've been doing, be aware of all your masking lines and make sure that they're refined on both ends. Here's my second attempt at the beginning of the painting. I wet the whole fox and I put some masking over his tail to suggest grass growing over his tail. I suggested some grass growing over his tail to bring the foreground in with the fox, you know, to make it the foreground part of the painting of the fox. So what I did was I painted lines with my masking to make it look like grass was growing in front of the fox. Brilliant! Good job, Rachel. Now you're really thinking. I wish I would have done that in the first place, because then I wouldn't have had to paint this again. I think even what I could have done also is masked out a little bit of leaves covering his back, so that would have brought the foreground a little bit over the fox, maybe even just one little leaf. But I didn't do that, but that's another idea. So that's how you want to make sure that your subject is incorporated into the painting, with elements covering up parts of the main subject and elements from the background also, maybe even just one little leaf if you're painting a cat or dog outside, for example. If you're just doing like a basic abstract background, the way you can do that is you can paint around your subject, but then like maybe in this part of their body, bring the paint over the body of the dog or the cat or whatever it is to incorporate the background in with your subject in some way. And I'm doing some paintings of some German Shepherds where I did that, and I can explain that to you in my next video coming up, one of the next ones. I've got a lot coming up because I've been doing so many paintings for Christmas. but I'll share that with you. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Okay, so anyway, all right, so now I'm putting in the red furs of the fox, and I'm putting in some of the background, and you can see I'm keeping the edge between the top of the fox's back. You can see that I'm keeping the top of the fox's back moist along with the background that directly is on top of his back, so that they kind of merge together, because that line isn't that important. It's just it can be just a soft line. What I really want you to focus on is the fox's face. How do you do that? You keep the edges around the face a little bit harder, because that will bring attention onto the fox's face, and they'll forget about that silly line of the fox's back. And his back is a pretty straight line too, so it's not very interesting. So you don't want to draw attention to it. So that's another thing to think about when you're laying out your painting. Where do I want my soft edges? Where do I want my hard edges? Where are those boring straight lines that don't really matter? Where are the edges that do matter, like in the face, usually if you're painting a dog or a cat or an animal like a fox. And here I'm just putting in some of his facial details, and you can see right here the camera, the video is switching to the old fox painting. And I felt like I'd already done all of this correctly. His face looked great, I thought, in the final painting. I got those eyes nice and dark with the eyeliner around the eyes, and I've talked about that a lot. So if you are painting a subject that has black eyeliner on their eyes, be sure to get it really dark so that those eyes really pop, and the viewer's eyes travel to those eyes in the painting, because you want to direct the eyes, the viewer's eyes, to your subject's eyes, if that makes sense. So, okay, so I'm just working on the ears a little bit here. He had really dark ears, and getting that fur texture in, adding some interest. So I'm getting a lot of little fur details in the face that I didn't get in the rest of the fox. The rest of the fox was really soft. I used some salt to get some of those textures in his tail, and I really like how this tail turned out with the salt textures in his tail. And the way I did that is you get it really wet, do a wet and wet wash with lots of different colors in the tail. You don't want it flat black. Put some ultramarine blue, some Windsor violet, some burnt sienna, mix them all together in there and get a very interesting color mix. And then when they're still pretty damp, that's when you drop your salt. And make sure you drop that salt in the first go, because if you put down some paint, let it dry, then do another layer of paint and then drop salt, the salt won't work, because I guess the salt needs to get all the way to the paper. So if you have a dry layer of paint under it, and then you put another layer of paint and then you put salt, I found it just doesn't work as well. So just keep that in mind. If you're planning to use salt, be sure to use it in that first wash. So here in the video, I am drawing in some background leaves. Oh, Kitty wants to make a cameo, so I'll say hi, Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Drawing in some background leaves, and I'm using a mix of what colors would I say? I make my own mix, but it involves ultramarine blue and quinacridone gold, and a little bit of permanent green, number 3, I believe. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, so I'm putting in that background that I had to really think extra hard about, because I put it in and planned it after I had the fox painted. I was just so excited to paint the fox, and like I said, I was in a hurry, so okay. So here I'm just doing a lot of negative painting for the background, putting in those ultramarine blues and permanent green light. So what I ended up having to do with this painting, can you see the line? You can still see that darn straight line even after I've done so much painting across the bottom of the fox to try to scrub out some grasses. You can see how I did that, and then I put some dark grass underneath the fox and tried to paint the dark grass up into the dark of the tail to kind of get rid of that line. And I really had to work it, you guys. I had to work at this background or the line underneath the fox to get rid of that straight line that was going across. And so what I ended up doing was I did a lot of scrubbing into the fox, and I did a lot of painting dark grasses up into the fox underneath him so that that line kind of disappeared. And you'll see at the end how I was happy with the result. I finally got it to a place where I felt like the line was gone. And then for my foreground, I painted a lot of grasses under the fox that were kind of pointing up at the fox. And then you can see the leaves in the background are pointing towards the fox as well. So I used that element in my background and foreground too to help direct the eye back to the fox's body and mainly face. So you'll see if you look at the leaves, a lot of them, there's a few that aren't, but most of the leaves are pointed this way, and I planned it that way. I did that with intention. And then the leaves at the bottom of the fox are pointed up towards the fox. So those are all elements in my painting that I used to direct the eye back to the fox and hopefully help the viewer forget the dumb mistakes I made that I don't think you can really see anymore. Good job, Rach. You covered up your mistakes. You saved the day. Am I an artist hero now? I would like to be an artist hero. That would be cool. Anyway, I'd have a magic paintbrush. But anyway, you can see the line underneath the fox is no longer straight. It kind of curves up, and there's a dark mass of grass under the fox, and that creates a shadow effect anyway and makes him look grounded. And usually you do want some sort of shadow under your animal so they don't look like they're floating. So remember to ground your animal if you're showing their whole body in the painting. And okay, I hope that was helpful, and I have a lot coming up, so be sure to subscribe and leave me a comment about what you're working on. I would love to see what you're working on, and I'm thinking about having some sort of member art contest or something where everybody shares their work and I put it on my channel. So if you guys have any ideas, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you have any ideas about how I could do that and what you guys would enjoy. I think that would be fun. And also, if you're here watching, I would love to hear from you and just let me know, hey, I was here. So leave me a comment, subscribe, and hit that little bell so that you get notifications when I post something new, which will be soon. You don't want to miss it. Okay, bye you guys.